Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, life hackers. Thank you, Candy, for the introduction. So, I'm glad that you are spending this afternoon with us. I hope that you will learn a lot from what you'll hear from us today. So, as Candy said, I will be talking about creating delightful experiences for our customer and how exactly we can do that. So I want to make it simple for people to understand. I didn't want to put in so much jargon. I want it to be more based on experience as well. So hopefully my presentation would be a good customer experience for you guys too. So let's start. Next slide, please. So, what is customer experience? So, at the heart of being able to provide delightful experiences, we need to understand what we mean when we say customer experience, especially in the context of our business. So, next slide, please. As Annette France said, customer experience is the sum of all interactions that a customer has with an organization or perhaps a product, service, or brand over the life of the relationship that the person has with the company. So it's not just one instance, it's every single interaction, regardless of how brief it may be. It is still part of customer experience. So this would affect what the customer actually thinks about your brand. So as I said, regardless of how brief it may be, it would affect the perception of that person, of your brand or your product and service. So we have to make sure that we look into every single touch point instance that they have with us because that could make or break the brand. Next slide, please. So I'd like you guys to let's try to make it a little interactive. It would have been nice if we were face to face. I could have asked you this question, and some people could have probably raised their hands and shared a little bit. No, so but right now, I just want you to, as you listen, think about your favorite brand and why do you love it so much? What made you love that brand so much? And then on the flip side, think about a brand that you hate or maybe you dislike. What made you feel that way towards the brand? Next slide, please. Let me share with you a few examples based on my own experience. So, first, Airbnb. Not actually the Airbnb as in the brand Airbnb, but a place that I stayed in, which I was able to book through Airbnb. So, this is an Airbnb stay in South Korea in one of my travels. And when you book an Airbnb, for those who have experienced it, normally you're on your own. There's not much to expect because it's not a hotel service. You book the apartment. Sometimes they even just leave their key in a letterbox. You get it from there. You go through the apartment. They give you instructions on how to use maybe the appliances in their place, right? And you leave, and then that's it. You throw the trash yourselves, or maybe you don't even throw the trash for the if you're staying there for 7 days, the trash is just there because sometimes you don't want to be bothered by all of the where to throw it in the condo. It's not a place we're very familiar with, right? There's no towels, unlike in a hotel. Nobody cleans up the room. But this particular Airbnb stay, the host actually went as far as, aside from providing all of the things that we needed, including even a steamer for your clothes. And there were even two scissors, one for food, one for shopping. He did provide towels. He cleaned up the place every other day. He stocked up the fridge with ice cubes and water. He had free tea for us and even went as far as treating us to dinner. So that was such a delightful experience, I'd say. And because of that, I gave him a very, very good review on Airbnb and recommended him to all my friends. Like literally everybody who asks me where to stay in Korea, I tell them stay with this guy. Not with a guy, sorry. Stay in his apartment. Right? So don't stay with him. That's not good. So stay in his apartment, right? So it's I became the main source of advertisement for this person, at least to people thinking of going to Korea, right? Then I would give him I would give them his contact number, and he would even give them discounts. So right, so it's great. Second example I have would be with McDonald's. It wasn't a very good experience, actually. It was bad food, watery hot chocolate, very late. And when I complained on the social media page of McDonald's, this is for a particular branch in BGC, they actually went as far as reaching out to me and then calling me. And the next day, the manager herself went to my office, brought me double of what I ordered previously, hot and fresh, and even offered that next time, if I have any, perhaps I have a meeting that I would need to order food, just let them know so that they can prepare it in advance, so that it won't be a hassle to me anymore. So I think that was a good recovery for me because I almost didn't want to order from that branch again because I felt it was so bad, right? But they did recover it quite well. So next example that I have would be SM Call to Deliver. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but because of the pandemic, I was very scared to go out. And it's still a different experience when you actually go to the mall, touch the merchandise, look at it, inspect it, right? And what they did was to recreate that experience through personal shoppers on Viber. And what's good about it is that you chat with the personal shopper, and the personal shopper can even take a video of the place, meaning take a video of the options that you have. So if you're looking for clothes or you're looking for tableware or something, they can show you that these are all of the options, and you tell them, okay, maybe I want to look at that white plate or something, and then they can take pictures of it from different angles so that you really can inspect the merchandise. And then you complete the payment online also. So they have online payment options, and then they deliver it to you within the same day. How cool is that? Right? So I have been promoting this to a lot of friends because I was very happy with it. I felt I didn't have to go to the mall anymore. But still, I am able to really, see what I'm buying. So it's not like sometimes when you do online shopping, you get surprised with the expectations versus reality, right? So it looks so good on picture, and then when it's delivered, it doesn't actually, it's not the same, right? So, and next would be an experience that I had with RCBC. Full disclosure, I was from RCBC, but this has nothing to do with me being an ex-employee. But I am a user of credit cards, and I love using credit cards. But there are some credit cards that I've had such a bad experience with that I had to cut it and stop using them. So in RCBC, we have the privilege to be able to get a card easily when you join the company, right? So I got a platinum card, and it was such a delightful experience for me when I found out that because I had a problem with the card, so I called the hotline. In 3 rings, somebody picks up. And you don't have to go through a long menu of press one for credit card, press two for whatever, right? So there was nothing like that. It was the platinum card service, and it picks up. They pick up right away, and then there you have somebody assisting you right away. Saves you a lot of time and effort. And even better is that you can convert to installment any purchase, like literally any purchase. Plane tickets, even my Meralco bill during the start of the pandemic when it blew up, right? I was able to charge it zero interest easily through through a swipe in the RCBC online banking app. So since then, I have kept that card. It's my most used card, and I've also been doing online banking a lot ever since then. Right, so that's good. Some unfortunate experiences, though, would be one with Globe. So I have all of our lines in the family were Globe before. When my father passed away, we submitted the death certificate to Globe to tell them to discontinue the line, right? But months later, we've been getting calls from Globe telling us that we weren't paying his bills, and it even went as far as them sending us a legal letter. So I went to the store. and complained about it, and they weren't able to handle it actually quite well. And right there and then, I cut all of our globe lines and switched to the competitor. So, and ever since, I never got a globe line again, right? So, but recently, there has been a lot of delightful experiences that I've had with Globe. So, I guess my point there is. It doesn't mean that if you lost a customer once, you would lose that customer forever. There is always a chance to recover the customer if you're able to provide them a good experience, right? So, just lastly, Cebu Pacific. On Cebu Pacific, it's more a UI UX problem that I have with their website. It was so hard to rebook, and it wasn't intuitive at all. I had to message them on Twitter and Facebook, which well, they weren't very responsive to. So from then, I felt that it was such a waste of time running after them when in fact it was actually a very easy fix to do. Or it was actually quite easy to rebook if only they explained it better, maybe in the website, like give you better instructions on what to do first so that you can rebook it. So that one I felt was not a very good UI UX experience. Right. So next slide, please. So I told you all of those things because I felt that CX can make or break your brand, right? So it's, as I said earlier in one of my first slides, it's very important that you take a look at every interaction because even the smallest thing can frustrate your customer and make that customer leave you. Or even worse, next slide, please. They talk about you and influence other people negatively if they've had a bad experience with you. I'm a believer that no amount of marketing can actually fix a bad product. It's if you have a good product or you have a good experience, it will sell itself. You don't have to spend so much money trying to promote your brand, to promote your product, because those people who are happy with their experience with you would be sharing this good feedback to others, and that would encourage them to try you out also and even do repeat purchase. So, but if the CX is bad, then these customers become irate, unsatisfied. They talk louder, especially now with social media. People feel so empowered to just, say whatever they want. And, sometimes it's unfair to the brands also, right? But that's also something that we need to make sure that we take a look at, because we have to make sure that we are able to provide them good experience, no matter at what touch point they are interacting with us. So for me, it saves us a lot of time, effort, and budget if we're actually able to provide good experience to customers because they will be our brand advocates. So never underestimate the power of word of mouth. Next slide, please. So, what do you need to do? You have to understand, know your customers. That is key to delivering um, best customer experience, right? So, like in the examples I gave you earlier, the Airbnb one, perhaps, that host actually knows what the needs of the customers are. The beds, he invested on beds that were hotel quality and sheets that were hotel quality and even blackout curtains. And he said it was because the insight he got from his customers is that they are tired from shopping the whole day or touring the whole day, that when they get back to the apartment, all they want to do is have a good rest so that they can be recharged the next day and enjoy the day to the fullest in their travel, right? It was such a good insight for me because most of the time people would say, I don't need such a fancy hotel or a good hotel, etc., because I'm just going to sleep there. But if you're well rested, you actually maximize your vacation even more. So I think that's very good understanding of the customer. And example again on, they say, pain points and challenges, like as I'm called to deliver. They knew that people like shopping and seeing the goods themselves, the merchandise. So that's why they had to recreate that kind of experience on Viber, which is something that the other online sites couldn't do. Right, so they knew that pain point, or at least that desire, that want of a customer, and they resolved it, right? Similar to the credit card example, they knew that people didn't have time to wait and go through the different menu options in the hotline. So they have that service wherein in 3 rings the call is answered, right? Next slide, please. Another very important thing is for you to map the customer journey. You put yourself in the shoes of the customer and see what they would have to be going through to be able to have that experience with your product or your service. This visually illustrates the process, the needs, the perceptions of the customer throughout the whole interaction. So that will then help you understand what would be the best kind of experience that you should provide your customers. Next slide, please. So I have this example. It's a little long, actually. So I'll try to just breeze through it. Um, we When I first learned about mapping the customer journey, I learned this from one of our excos here in AIA. One of my mentors, Gigi. So this was an example that she used for us to understand customer journey better. So we have here a great product. It's the GE Optima MRI machine. But despite it being a great product, we had a little bit of a problem with some of the patients that were meant to use it. Next slide, please. So who am I talking about? The kids. So we have here Sophia. She is 6 years old and she's afraid of the MRI machine. So what do we need to do to understand how we can make it better for Sophia? We have to map the what she's thinking of. So sorry, it's covered because I had to take out the animation. So the first arrow, the light yellow part there, is what the person is feeling. Second would be the behavior. So what they would have to go through, the process that they would have to go through. Then you have the onstage experience, meaning the experience right there at the hospital where it's going to happen. And then you have people and things. So the pink one would be the people, and then the blue one would be the things involved in that experience. And then you have your backstage support. So meaning these are not there on site. They're probably not in the room, but these are necessary for you to be able to deliver that experience to them. So let's go through it quickly. So what would be the process? So Sophia goes to the hospital, checks in. They go to the MRI room, and then she sees the machine. She starts crying hysterically, and then of course they couldn't get her into the machine. So she sees the doctor, she cries even harder. So they decide to drug her, put anesthesia to make her sleep, and then they go through the imaging. Right. So how does she feel as she goes through that? She's nervous. It looks scary. Will it hurt me? Right. So once she sees the doctor, she thinks, "Where's my mom? Can she help?" Right. And then they drug her, so she cries even harder. It's quite traumatic for the kid. Right. If you look at the onstage experience, what do we have here? We have here the as they go to the hospital. So perhaps they go through the check-in, the reception. They go through. Sorry, I have to stop pretending that I can actually read it. Sorry. So they go through the check. So the check-in nurse is there. The mom is with her. The nurse is there. The doctor. So these are the people who's part of the onstage experience. Then perhaps there was the desk or the computer, the chart, the MRI machine, maybe a lot of tissues because she's crying nonstop. And then you have needles and drugs, right? So, and then for the backstage report, so just to give you an example, the system admin, you have there the patient record system, you have the safety team for the patient, maybe the paging system, the drug room where they get the drugs from to put her to sleep, and then you have there the imaging tech. Next slide, please. So what do you need to do? We evaluate and prioritize that initial journey that we have, that we laid down. So this is not the ideal one yet. This is the existing one that she is going through, the kids are going through, right? And then let's take a look at which part of the journey would it have the most impact to the experience of the customer and even to the experience of the company or the hospital in this case, right? So we look at the one with the most dots here would be that part that we felt had the most impact. So it's the part where she cries and resists. At this point, she's thinking, will it hurt me? right? So what's the impact of this? Of course, it impacts the imaging time. They would need more time to be able to get her there. More staff would be involved. There would be cost for the drugs and side effects for the child, right? So it also perhaps gives them less patients that they can attend to for the day because the child already took so much time, and the patients that are lined up won't have enough time to do their own procedure anymore, right? So next slide, please. So now we need to understand the need. How do we turn this around for them? You have to look at how do we make her feel safe, because at this point she thinks it will hurt, right? So, but actually it won't. But it's just scary for a child to see a machine that big. Like, what is this, right? So we need to make her feel safe. We have to explore the customer needs so that we gain a deeper understanding of their functional and emotional needs at the same time. Next slide, please. So we evaluate and frame. Let's examine the issue and look for opportunities. Given the understanding of the customer, what can we do to turn it around? So she's a child. What do they like to do? They love to play. Perhaps they love to color, they have to explore. And one of the things that is common among children, like my son, I have a 2-year old, they like to go camping or going into a tent, right? So camping is probably something that we can use to convince the child to go into that MRI. How? Next slide, please. So let me show you how. So that's the idea. We go camping. Let's design a new experience around that. Next slide, please. So they turned the MRI room into a campsite. So you see that they made the MRI machine look like a tent. There is a tiger singing by the campfire, right? So this will make it a greater experience. There's even a camp van right there. Next slide, please. So what happens here is that with that idea, instead now of perhaps a take-home packet for the mom and the child to know what to prepare for the MRI procedure, they get a backpack for camping, and there all of the guides are there, and then now the whole thing changes. Instead of feeling unsafe, she's going, "Wow, I love camping!" Right? So now less imaging time, fewer staff, no drugs, and everyone's happy, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so what do you need to keep in mind when you design that experience? It's quite simple. Just think hearts. So what does hearts mean? It's human, it's engaging, it's accessible, relevant, timely, and simple. Make sure that you deliver caring, reliable support to your customers. Make it engaging. You proactively engage with the customer and deepen the relationship with them, whether or not they're there to buy. Because eventually, after nurturing them, they might be interested to buy later on. And then make it accessible for them. It has to be convenient. Don't make them go through so much effort just to reach you. Make the offer personalized so that it really meets their needs. Make sure you respond timely, because sometimes, if you don't respond timely, you lose the customer and somebody else has already probably reached out to that customer and they moved to the competitor already. And then make it simple. From language to the actual experience, less steps, the better. So just to close, if you can move on to the next slide, please. Make sure that the customer is your North Star. You have to always put them at the heart of what you do. And this should guide your strategy regardless of what aspect of the business you drive. You don't have to be in marketing or in operations to make sure that you put the customer first. Regardless of the group that you belong to, there will be an impact to the customer. So when you're lost or direction is not clear, just keep in mind of what would be the best for your customer, and that will get you back on track. Thank you.